You are trying to melt belly fat by changing what you eat, maybe cutting carbs, adding more protein, avoiding processed food. All of that matters. But there is something you put into your body multiple times every single day that nobody is talking about in the belly fat conversation. Not food. What you drink. The specific things you choose to hydrate with, when you drink them, and how much are creating a hormonal environment that either supports fat burning or quietly works against everything else you are doing. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that drinking 500 milliliters of water increased metabolic rate by 30% for 60 minutes afterward. Not from exercise, not from caffeine, from water. That is just one of 7 ways your hydration habits are shaping your belly fat every single day. And here is the part that stopped me when I first understood it. Most people who struggle with belly fat are not eating as badly as they think. They are often just dehydrating in specific ways that keep fat burning suppressed from morning until night. Stay with me because habit number 5 is one almost everyone dismisses. Most people think the temperature of water they drink cannot possibly matter. The thermogenesis research says otherwise. Drop a comment before we start. What is the very first thing you drink every morning, and roughly how much water do you actually drink in a typical day? I want to know where most people watching this are starting from. Here is the biology most people never connect to belly fat. Water is not just a passive carrier in your body. It participates directly in fat metabolism through 3 specific mechanisms. First, lipolysis. The chemical process of breaking down stored fat requires water as a direct reactant. Your body literally uses water molecules to split fat molecules apart. Even mild dehydration slows this process measurably. Second, when your kidneys do not have enough water to filter waste efficiently, they signal your liver for help. While your liver is busy supporting your kidneys, it reduces its capacity to metabolize stored fat. Fat burning slows not because of what you ate, but because of what you did not drink. Third, your body has to burn calories to bring the temperature of water you drink up to body temperature. This is called water-induced thermogenesis. It is a real and measurable fat-burning effect that most people never think about. 7 hydration habits determine whether these 3 mechanisms are working for you or against you every day. Habit number 1. Drinking 500 milliliters of water. Immediately after waking. This is the habit that sets the hormonal tone for the entire day before you have done anything else. Think about what has happened to your body overnight. You spent 7 to 9 hours not drinking anything. During that entire time, you were losing water through every breath, through mild sweating, through metabolic processes running quietly while you slept. By the time you open your eyes, you are already in a state of mild dehydration. And cortisol, which is at its natural daily peak in those first 30 minutes after waking, is operating in a dehydrated environment. Dehydration amplifies the cortisol awakening response. Cortisol climbs higher than its natural design and stays elevated longer. That extended cortisol spike sends a fat storage signal to your belly fat cells before breakfast, before coffee, before anything. 500 milliliters of water before anything else begins reversing that dehydration immediately. Your kidneys receive the hydration they need to operate independently. Your liver is freed up to start fat metabolism. Cortisol finds a more stable environment and follows its natural curve instead of an amplified one. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that drinking 500 milliliters of water immediately after waking increased metabolic rate by 30% for 60 minutes. The effect was driven partly by the thermogenic cost of warming the water, and partly by the cascade of metabolic changes that follow rehydration after overnight fasting. Mark is a software developer who started keeping a filled water bottle beside his keyboard every evening. The next morning, he drank it before opening his laptop. 2 weeks later, he told me something he did not expect. He stopped needing his second coffee of the afternoon, not because he was trying to cut caffeine, because his cortisol was no longer being amplified by morning dehydration, so his energy did not crash the same way by 2 p.m. The preparation is everything. Fill the bottle the night before. Leave it where you will see it immediately. Make the right choice, require 0 decision-making in the morning. Habit number 2. Replacing water with sweetened drinks throughout the day. This is the mistake that undermines hydration even when people think they are drinking plenty. Picture a typical day of drinking for most people: a coffee with milk and a pump of syrup in the morning, a sweetened iced tea or flavored water at lunch, a sports drink after the gym, a fruit juice in the afternoon, maybe a soda with dinner. All of those feel like hydration. None of them hydrate you the way water does. And several of them are actively working against your belly fat in a way that most people never connect. Here is the mechanism. Liquid fructose from sweetened drinks bypasses the satiety systems in your body. It does not stretch your stomach. It does not activate the receptors that tell your brain you consumed something meaningful. So you drink 250 calories of juice, and your brain still sends the same hunger signal it would have sent if you had drunk plain water. But your pancreas received a very different message. Fructose entering your bloodstream triggers an insulin response. Fat storage mode activates at full strength. You got all of the insulin spike, none of the satiety. And you are still thirsty because your cells need water, not sugar. A study published in the BMJ found that sugar-sweetened beverage consumption was independently associated with visceral fat accumulation over time, even after accounting for total calorie intake. It was not the extra calories causing the visceral fat. It was the specific insulin response that liquid fructose creates in combination with the way it bypasses satiety signaling. The fix is replacing each sweetened drink with plain water, sparkling water without sweetener, black coffee, or plain tea. Not all at once if that feels overwhelming. Pick one sweetened drink per week and replace it. 4 weeks later, you have replaced 4, and your daily insulin load has dropped significantly without changing a single food on your plate. Habit number 3. Drinking water with or after meals instead of before. This is a habit naturally lean people tend to practice without knowing the mechanism behind it. 15 to 20 minutes before a meal, drink a full glass of water. That specific timing changes what happens when you actually sit down to eat. Here is what water does when it arrives in your stomach 15 minutes before food. It begins activating stretch receptors in your stomach wall. These receptors send early satiety signals to your brain before the meal even begins. When food arrives, those signals are already in motion. You reach the feeling of fullness earlier in the meal and with less food consumed. Additionally, pre-meal water helps your body distinguish between genuine hunger and thirst that has been misread as hunger. A significant portion of what people experience as hunger between meals is actually mild dehydration. When you drink water before eating, some of those signals resolve. You consume less food at the meal because some of what was driving your appetite was actually thirst. A study published in Obesity followed participants over 12 weeks. The group that drank 500 milliliters of water 30 minutes before each main meal lost 44% more weight than the control group. Same diet instructions for both groups, same level of effort. 44% more fat loss from water timing alone. The fix is building a pre-meal water habit before anything else. Set a reminder 15 to 20 minutes before your usual lunch and dinner times. When the reminder fires, drink a full glass of water. Then go about your day until the meal arrives. Over time, this timing becomes automatic, and the pre-meal satiety signal becomes something your body anticipates. Habit number 4. Drinking multiple coffees without replacing the water. This is a mistake that most coffee drinkers never think about. Caffeine is a mild diuretic. It increases urinary output above what you would produce from the same volume of plain water. The effect is modest but real. Research published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that each milligram of caffeine consumed produces approximately 1.17 milliliters of additional urine output. A standard coffee contains roughly 100 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. That means each cup results in 117 to 234 milliliters of additional fluid loss. If you drink 3 coffees and no additional water, you have consumed roughly 600 milliliters of liquid, but lost somewhere between 350 and 700 milliliters of additional fluid through caffeine-driven urination. You can end the day in net dehydration despite feeling like you drank plenty. And net dehydration throughout the day activates the same chain we discussed earlier. Kidneys signal the liver for help. Liver reduces fat metabolism. Mild cortisol elevation follows. Fat storage signal runs in the background all day. The fix is simple and does not require giving up coffee. For every cup of caffeinated drink you consume, drink an equivalent volume of plain water alongside it. 1 coffee, 1 glass of water. 2 coffees, 2 glasses of water. Your net hydration stays positive, and your liver stays available for fat burning instead of kidney support. Habit number 5. Drinking warm or room temperature water instead of cold. This is the habit most people dismiss before understanding the mechanism. Your body maintains a core temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. When you drink cold water, typically around 4 to 10 degrees, your body has to burn calories to bring it up to core temperature before it can be used. This is called water-induced thermogenesis. It is not a massive calorie burn, but it is real, measurable, and cumulative. A study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism measured the metabolic effect of drinking cold water versus room temperature water. Cold water produced a greater thermogenic response, with approximately 40% of the total metabolic increase attributed specifically to the cost of warming the water. The effect lasted for roughly 90 minutes after drinking. Cold water also has a mild activating effect on brown adipose tissue, the metabolically active fat that burns calories to generate heat rather than storing energy. Brown fat activation from cold exposure, including cold water, is an area of significant ongoing research in fat loss science. The fix is straightforward. Keep a pitcher of cold water in your refrigerator and use that as your primary drinking water throughout the day. If you have a sensitive stomach and find very cold water uncomfortable, water at around 10 to 15 degrees produces most of the thermogenic effect without the discomfort. Combining cold water with the pre-meal habit from habit 3 creates a compounding effect. Cold water before a meal triggers thermogenesis, while simultaneously activating pre-meal satiety signals. 2 fat-burning mechanisms from 1 glass of water. Habit number 6. Stopping water intake. In the late afternoon. This is the mistake that most people make without realizing it has overnight consequences. Picture the typical daily hydration pattern: morning coffee and maybe some water, water with lunch, another coffee in the afternoon. Then from about 4 p.m. onward, very little to nothing until morning. The reason is usually practical. People want to avoid waking up in the night to use the bathroom, so they stop drinking early. But what that creates is a state of mild to moderate dehydration that builds through the evening and is at its worst exactly when you are trying to sleep and when overnight fat burning is supposed to happen. During sleep, your body loses an additional half a liter to a full liter of water through breathing and mild perspiration. If you begin that period already mildly dehydrated, you will wake up moderately dehydrated. And a moderately dehydrated morning means amplified cortisol, suppressed fat metabolism, and a higher fat storage environment before you have eaten a single thing. Lipolysis slows. The liver is borrowed by the kidneys. The overnight fat-burning window that growth hormone was supposed to drive runs at reduced capacity. A study published in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics found that inadequate daily hydration was independently associated with higher BMI and higher rates of obesity in adults, with the relationship holding after controlling for total calorie intake. The fix does not require drinking large amounts of water late at night. Aim to drink at least a full glass of water between 2 and 4 p.m. This tops up your hydration before the long evening gap begins. If you are concerned about nighttime bathroom trips, keep your evening water intake modest, but do not stop completely. Going to sleep adequately hydrated is one of the most overlooked variables in overnight fat burning. Habit number 7. Drinking plain water when your cells need electrolytes. This is the final habit, and it is one that naturally lean people often practice through cultural tradition without knowing the science behind it. In Japan, green tea is consumed throughout the day. In Mediterranean cultures, water with lemon is common. In many South Asian cultures, spiced drinks with mineral-rich additions are traditional. All of these practices share something in common. They add natural electrolytes to hydration rather than drinking plain water alone. Here is why that matters for belly fat specifically. Electrolytes, particularly sodium, potassium, and magnesium, are required to open the cellular channels that allow water to actually enter your cells. When you drink large amounts of plain water without adequate electrolytes, the water circulates in your bloodstream and gets filtered by your kidneys before your cells can fully absorb it. You can drink a liter of water and still have cells that are not adequately hydrated if your electrolyte balance is off. Properly hydrated cells are metabolically efficient cells. They burn fat more effectively, produce energy more cleanly, and signal hunger and satiety more accurately. Chronically electrolyte-depleted cells, even while drinking plenty of plain water, are less efficient across all of these functions. The fix is not buying expensive sports drinks. Most commercial sports drinks are loaded with sugar and artificial ingredients that create their own insulin problems. Add natural electrolytes to your water instead. A small pinch of mineral salt, Celtic salt, or Himalayan salt in a liter of water. Fresh lemon juice without added sugar. A slice of cucumber, or a few mint leaves. A small amount of unsweetened coconut water diluted 3-to-1 with plain water. Any of these provide the mineral support your cells need to actually absorb the water you are already drinking. Here is the complete picture of 7 hydration habits that shape your belly fat every single day. Habit 1. What lean people do naturally. 500 milliliters of water immediately after waking increases metabolic rate by 30% and prevents the dehydration amplified cortisol that drives morning fat storage. Habit 2. The common mistake. Sweetened drinks create full insulin spikes without satiety, directly building visceral fat independent of total calories consumed. Habit 3. What lean people do naturally. Water. 15 to 20 minutes before meals activates pre-satiety signals and produced 44% greater fat loss in a 12-week trial. Habit 4. The common mistake. Multiple coffees without water replacement creates net dehydration that suppresses liver fat metabolism throughout the day. Habit 5. What lean people do naturally. Cold water triggers 90 minutes of thermogenic fat burning and mild brown fat activation with every glass. Habit 6. The common mistake. Stopping water intake in the late afternoon leads to overnight dehydration that suppresses growth hormone-driven fat burning during sleep. Habit 7. What lean people do naturally. Natural electrolytes help water actually enter cells instead of being filtered and excreted before absorption. Here is what I need you to understand before this ends. Water is the cheapest and most available substance on the planet. Most people take it for granted and assume it is just background maintenance with no meaningful effect on fat burning. But how you hydrate, when you hydrate, what temperature you choose, and what you add to your water are creating a hormonal environment every single day that either supports or suppresses everything else you are doing. Lean people are not doing this perfectly or consciously in most cases. They just fell into hydration patterns that happen to work with their biology instead of against it. Now, you know exactly what those patterns look like. Try just one of these habits starting tomorrow. Come back in a week and tell me what shifted. Which of these 7 surprised you most today? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. If this changed how you think about what you drink and your belly fat, subscribe to What Science Reveals. Real science explained clearly every single week. And if you want to see how your morning habits and eating habits connect to everything we covered today, those videos are right here. All 3 work together as one complete daily system. See you in the next one.